My name is Carlton Cartwright. I'm the Executive Director for Veterans Memorial and Multicultural Histories Incorporated. And today is March the 14th, 2023. I believe it is Tuesday, right? And we're at Riviera Beach Preparatory Achievement Academy in Riviera Beach. And sir, what is your name?
Artie Williams.
Okay, Mr. Williams. And Mr. Williams, could you tell us a little bit about your background? Where were you born?
I actually was born right here in Riviera Beach. Grew up in Riviera Beach. Started out in the Parson Heights neighborhood, and we moved to Monroe Heights in 1968, and family been in that home ever since. I went to school here. I went to Lincoln Elementary School. In the sixth grade, I went to Washington Elementary School, and actually John F. Kennedy Middle School, and Palm Beach Gardens High School.
Right.
And I also attended this campus when it was North Tech, the school,
Okay.
North Technical Educational School right here. Took up carpentry, so I'm familiar with the Riviera Beach. Been here my entire life, pretty much.
Did you attend any college?
Yes, I went into the military.
What branch?
U.S. Marine Corps.
Oh, really?
Yes, my Marine Corps, and I was stationed went to boot camp in Parris Island, South Carolina. Was stationed in North Carolina, Camp Lejeune. Attended college there at 29 Palms, California. When we went to, had a chance to go to California, attend college in California, and got out of the military in 1981, and ever since then I've been back here.
What were you doing prior to going into the military?
Well, I went in the military right out of school. I waited till I was 18 and went straight into the military. When I got out of the military, I came back, and I was actually the first job I had when I came out of the military. I worked for the U.S. Postal Service.
Uh-huh.
And after that, went into the car business. And
Where was your basic training?
Parris Island, South Carolina.
Paris, okay, all right, okay. And just prior to going in, you were in school?
In school.
So you went directly into the military?
Yes.
So you said the Marines?
Yes.
Why did you choose that branch of the service?
Well, at the time, I used to see these commercials come on television all the time, and I thought Marine Corps had they were the sharpest, had the best uniforms. They would just seem like they were just a sharp branch. And I know they always say that you have to be really tough and you'd be the best to go to Marine. So I figured, hey, that's what I want to do. I want to go into the best branch, and I figured that was the Marine Corps, and I never regretted it. It actually had a nice experience, and I would just tell young people, if you're not going to college, military is a good thing to consider. It does a lot for you, and you can accomplish a lot. You can go to college on the bill. You don't have to pay. So I think that'd be a good option for a lot of people who's not thinking about going to college or a trade school.
Is it going to the service?
Yes.
Right. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I enlisted.
Okay, and what year was that you went in?
In 1977.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell me about basic training. What was it like?
Well, as a new recruit, it's quite different. When you first get off the bus and get on the base, automatically then you're just a nobody. They're going to treat you like you just at the bottom. There's always 3 phases to the Marine Corps boot camp: first, second, and third phase. First phase, you just walk around like you just don't know nothing. You wrinkle up. They just got you looking like you just a lost puppy. And as time goes on, you move into second phase. You move up to the second floor of the building, and you got a little bit more respect now because you're seeing all of the new recruits come in, and it was the boot camp and the exercise, the things they were doing. And finally, when you get into third phase, it's like graduation time. Now you're that sharp person that you see on television. You see the uniforms all creased, they marching. It's just a whole different adventure, and you just love to get in third phase. Everybody looking forward to get in third phase. We used to see these guys walking and marching with precision, and we said, wow, we want to be like that. But once you get there, you realize that the competition is just amazing, because you compete against all the other platoons there for the best platoon. So that was great.
So how long was basic training?
Basic training was 3 months.
And did that include your tech school?
No.
AIT?
No.
No. Okay, so that was
That was just
Basic training for
Yes.
3 solid months.
3 solid
You got
months.
through it.
Yes.
Did you go home before you went to your tech school?
Yes, I did. I came home. I didn't want to stay long. I came home for 7 days, and then had to report to North Carolina, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and that's where I was stationed.
And for what job did they train you for?
Well, I had a top secret clearance. I was at 2542, which was communicator, which means I worked with the generals. I took pride in that, scoring high, so I can have a top secret clearance,
Right.
and be able to work with the generals on making decisions about sending messages. I was in communications, so we got to use what they call a teletype, which is advanced computer for these days. They didn't have computers the way they have now, but they had the teletype where we sent our messages through teletype to another country or to the general or to wherever. And that's what I did. I was in communications.
Okay, just go back for a second. In basic training, were there any casualties? Anybody get hurt? Did you get hurt?
No, I didn't. I never gotten hurt. Actually, I was the platoon artist, which means that, and I got to stay back and have to, because once you get into the military, once you get in the Marine Corps, you take what they call a PFT, which is a physical fitness test. So by me maxing the test, I didn't have to go out and do the exercise like a lot of other people did. So I was able to stay back inside the barracks and be fire watch. So I didn't have to. I didn't have to do a lot of the things that a lot of the other people did because of my training that I did before I got there. I made it my point to be in shape, because I know Marine Corps is a little bit different. So I used to take my regiment from Riviera Beach. I used to run down to what they call now City Place and back, so I can get in shape. And so when I got into the military, it was nothing for me to ace the things that they wanted us to do. So I didn't have to do a lot of the things. And after I got out of boot camp, I was in the sports in the military. So I was TAD, just the sports. I didn't have to go out in the fields. I just played for the Marine Corps football and basketball team.
So you lived a different life in the military?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let me switch gears for a moment. So your tech school was communications?
Yes.
Right?
And-
How long was that tech school?
That was 3 months also, but that was in 29 Palms, California.
Okay, all right. So what did you do didn't you say you had to go to Carolinas?
Well, Carolinas was where I reported at for my base. That's where I was stationed.
Oh,
So after I got out of boot camp,
yeah.
I was sent to California after I came home on leave to training for my communications.
But then you were stationed in Carolina.
Right. So after I left 29 Palms, California, they sent me to
Your first duty station.
first duty station.
And that was
Camp Lejeune.
Camp Lejeune.
And
How long was that tour?
Well, Camp Lejeune is just my home base, but what happened after that is that I signed up for med floats, which means all the Mediterranean floats. I didn't stay on the base pretty much. I was always on the ship, going Spain, Turkey, all the things in the Mediterranean. I was doing those things with the Navy in the communication center. So I never really stayed on the base long, because after one float was over, I was sent out on another one. So I think every 6 months, the med float is every 6 months. So 6 months are over, the next med float goes out, I go on that one. So my whole time on
So you
base,
be in for 6 and then out for 6?
No, I go out on the med floats for 6.
Uh-huh.
When I come back, I probably stay about a month.
Okay.
Then I go back out again on another med float.
Okay, okay. And how did so what rank were you, did you acquire any additional
I went to-
rank due to
yes,
this?
E5, I went up to a sergeant.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, in what space of time?
4 years.
Oh, so it took you 4 years to make?
Yeah, to get the sergeant.
Okay, so how many years did you do in the military altogether?
Well, I did 6 years altogether.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what rank were you when you finally separated?
E5.
Okay, all right, that's what I needed to know. All right, so tell us about your tours. I mean, so these med flows, what were they?
Well, the med flows was great. I mean, you got a chance to experience places that you probably would never go as a regular citizen. I got to visit places like Spain, Turkey, Greece, all those different countries that we did exercises in.
All of them. If you can
Yes.
share that, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you take the culture, you watch it like the Spain, and that's another thing I would always tell young people, that when you're in school, you get a chance to take a foreign language, pay attention. Because when I took Spanish in school, and I said, well, you know what, I'm never going to use it. And the first place I got to go was Spain. So now you think about all these things that you should have learned in school about this culture, and but we got through. They give you these guides, these books that you want to translate out of. But I think that the Spain, out of all the places I went, I think Spain was the most exciting for me, and then I would say France. But I think Rome, when we went to France, I think Rome was probably the most educational. We got to see a lot of the cultures. You got to see a lot of the Pope things. See a lot of cathedrals that honor Black people. So Rome was pretty good. I think if anybody get a chance to go to yes.
What does that mean? That's the first time I've heard anything like that.
Well, they have these. Well, a lot of times when you're looking at the biblical part of it, and we see the culture of Jesus or the Lord, you think of a certain image that's portrayed on pictures. But when you get a chance to see it, that read from the Bible, understand it, and see the vision of what they had of Jesus was this big black statue with the curly hair, the same thing that you would see normally with the Jesus that you see in the books or the pictures of, but you got a chance to see the real culture and the way they talked about it.
In Rome?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so countries. Give me a quick rundown on countries. And by the way, on any of these med flows, were there any casualties? Anybody get hurt?
Well, no, I wouldn't say they got hurt. We I'm always inside up with the brass, so I never got a chance to go out on excursions to be out in the fields, and because you do a lot of wartime exercises. The same thing they do today. You put on your camouflage, you go out there, you set up your tents, you live overnight, you make do with the elements that you have. So I never got a chance to see a lot of the people coming back on the stretchers or with the going to sick bay, those type of injuries.
Were there any combat engagements during the time you were doing med flows?
No, it was a peaceful time.
It was a peaceful time.
But you will have exercise there, but people will
get hurt.
It will get hurt because you got to understand, especially when I say Turkey. Turkey is one of those terrains that when we go out in the fields, the guys would tell me they couldn't pitch their tents really because the ground was so hard. So when they drive their stakes in, it was just not going. So they had to make do with a lot of other ways to do some things. It wasn't like going out in the fields and when you get to Greece or one of those places, but Turkey was kind of a tough terrain for them to navigate. So you had to find other ways to get your tent pitched, and you'll learn those things, that other ways of survival. So basically it was another way of survival. And the food at that time, again, you had what they call sea rations. You didn't have a regular meal. You never got a hot meal when you're out in the field. So if you go out there 2 weeks at a time, you know this canned food that you got to open up and you got to heat up with these heat tablets. You got to make your stove. So a lot of things that you learn to be able to live in the wilderness is taught by being in the branch. So if you ever get a chance where you stranded somewhere in today's life, you'll notice some of the things that you need to do to survive.
To survive, exactly. Exactly. All right, so for that whole, 4 to 6 years, was your home base always Camp Lejeune?
Right.
And
I for the first 2 years, yeah.
Okay.
After that, I was transferred to what they call was an air station, was a New River Air Station, which means this was still a Marine Corps base, but did a lot of the air work out of it. A lot of the helicopters, those kind of things were stationed at that base.
Where was that location?
That was still in North Carolina.
Okay.
It was New River, North Carolina.
Was that near the ocean or?
No.
Inland.
It was inland.
Okay.
And the same way with the next base, which is Camp Geiger, which is still in North Carolina.
How long were you there?
Another 2 years.
Okay.
But you got to understand, when you look at a Marine Corps base, like a base like Camp Lejeune, and you look at the size of Palm Beach County, the base is probably it's just that large. So you could be on one side of the base and never know what's happening on the other side of the base. I would say I don't know about a lot of other bases, but I would say about the Marine Corps bases, you're never accepted where you wouldn't be in shape. They didn't expect that because every company had a gymnasium.
Right.
So you might be on a base. You take like here, we got Riviera Beach, we have Wales Recreation and Tate Recreation. Now you take the whole county that Marine Corps base probably had 25, 30 gyms that size on it.
Right.
So at any time they'll probably give you a physical fitness test. So you always have to be cognizant of what you look like as a Marine. Marines took pride in what they looked like and the way they carried themselves. We dealt directly with the Navy. A lot of the things that, when they say Marine Corps, first to fight. So if there's a wartime, the first people that's going to enter the combat is going to be Marine Corps. The Navy would take the Marines, they would drop them off to wherever they're going, and they would be the first to initiate combat.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Oh, medals and citations.
Yes, I received the sharpshooter medal while I was in the military.
Right.
And that was, I took pride in that because I thought just shooting at a distance of 500 yards was extraordinary. I just think no one can see a target that small. And it all comes from training about learning to do your clicks on your rifle. Not so much as seeing the target, but how many clicks you make to get to your adjustment. So you'll have a spotter down there 500 yards and you'll hit this target and they'll hold up a certain color flag and that'll tells you how many clicks to the left, to the right, up or down what you need to go until you can actually be able to center the target. So I thought it was very good the way they did that, and also I was able to move up in rank pretty quickly when I came to. I came out of boot camp and I was first to get the PFC, which is your first rank. And I think the only thing that probably held me back a little bit because I did the military. They say, well, you're from Florida, swim qualification. I had to get swim qualified because they think everybody from Florida is just this great swimmer. You know?
Right.
So when I got in there and I saw this big Olympic pool and the diving board was so many meters up there, I said, jumping down in that water, I didn't want to do it. So they said, well, if you don't jump down and get swim qualified, you're not going to get your next rank. So, but coming from someone who wasn't a great swimmer, that seemed like a whole lot like jumping into the ocean. But you'll learn to do all those things. You'll learn to get over all those fears. Because once you jump and get in, then it's just like a regular pool.
Right.
But when you're looking at it from Olympic-sized diving board, when you're not a diver, it's totally, it's kind of frightening.
A little different, huh?
Yeah, a little bit different.
How did you stay in touch with your family? Did you have any problems staying in touch with your family while you were in the military?
Well, not when I'm based. You know, when I'm based, no, because you just could pick up. At that time, it was collect calling. So at that time, no. When I'm based here in North Carolina, it was no problem. But when you go overseas, and you have ship to land communication, so they will have to make contact with the United States, and when they finally make contact with your home, you will have to speak. And when you get through speaking, you will say over. So now they transfer the other person line to open up, and then they'll speak and they'll say over. So those kind of things you have to be able to navigate from the way you speak.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just.
Okay, how was the food? Was the food good all the way through the military?
Great, yeah.
Okay.
One thing I said about the military food, you can eat much as you want. There's never a cap of what you can eat. You just had time limits,
Right?
Because you had to be certain places. But food, housing, you're never going to get anything better. Military, for me, at the time I went in, the barracks wasn't barracks anymore where we lived. It was an apartment, and it was rooms. So it was 2 people to a room, and it was a fairly new complex. Because coming from boot camp, living in a barracks where you got maybe 80 people, to living just with 2 people was a big difference when you graduate.
Gotcha. Okay, tell me 2 of your most memorable experiences in your military career.
I would think the first one was getting a top secret clearance. I just thought that was something I strived for, getting a top secret clearance.
Right.
And when I got to work with all of the generals, and I thought that was one of the best accommodations I could have. And the other one was, I would say, playing for the Marine Corps Sports Centers. Was able to travel everywhere on a helicopter. We go to a game, we'll land on the field on a helicopter. So I thought those things were a little bit different, and it was exciting to me. So I look forward to the weekend games and going to work at the communication center.
Okay, all right, nice. Okay. Have you maintained any of your friendships from the service?
Sure. Actually, the best friendships I have are from that service members. I got a friend now, matter of fact, I went to see him last year that lives in Las Vegas. And him and I traveled everywhere together. We went on med floats. We went together. So you get this, what they call the buddy plan when you go into the military. If you go into one of the military and you go in one of your buddies, that means that they will send you guys, as long as you pass school, they will send you guys everywhere together. So that way you have somebody that you know all the time. But this guy was from St. Louis, Missouri, and it so happened that we just went to communication school together. And from that point on, we went everywhere together. So and one of my other best friends that when I got out of the military, he got married. He called me back to be his best man at his wedding. So those are the relationships that you build in the military. So I would say a little bit different than you build with the people that you see here. That's only because those people got to protect you. Those people got to protect you in a foxhole, or you're going to put more trust in those people than you do with a lot of people that you take for granted. You know, you got friends that you grew up with here at home, but you take those friends for granted because you know you see them all the time and y'all just going, just hang out. But the people in the military are quite different. They're all there for a purpose. And the military, when you're doing your training, you're doing those things, you know those people have your back, literally have your back, because if you get put in a foxhole with somebody who's not paying attention, you're going to be in trouble with the enemy. So you got to trust those people with your lives, which is a little bit different. And so you learn to be closer to those people.
So the camaraderie is
it's all time high.
I got you. Exactly. Okay. Let's see. So have you shared with us all the places that you traveled?
Oh yes, pretty much all of the
Sound like a lot of European tours.
Yes, yeah. I didn't get a chance. I was get a chance to go on a Westpac, which Westpac means you get to go to Japan and those type of places. So I didn't go to Okinawa.
You didn't get to go, okay.
Yes, but that was the next thing on my list. But you had to be over there for a year, and I didn't want to do a year, so I was okay with the 6 month at a time thing.
Okay. Did you what did you had? Okay, so when it was time for you to start separating, did you know what you were going to do when you got out of the service?
Well, that was another story too, because when it's time for me to get out of the military, you go where you see what they call a career planner.
And what year was that? That was
in 1981.
Okay.
So a career planner, and at that time, I was up for promotion to be a staff sergeant, and I know that I was already up for promotion. So in Marine Corps, when you re-enlist, they give you a choice of 2 out of the 3 choices. You get a choice of duty station, a bonus, signing bonus, or if you're up for rank. So since I was already up for rank, I said, well, you know what, I'm gonna go back to California. I wanna go to Preparatory, California, which is an air station, which is another air base. And I'm gonna take the signing bonus. So when it comes time for me to re-enlist and I'm going to see the career planner, they give me the choices and they wanted me to choose one of the 3 that I was supposed to already have, which is the rank. So I wasn't excited about doing that because I know once I got to California, I would already be a E6. So, and they wanted to wait 6 months. And at that time, I said, you know what? Let me just get out. When I get out, I'm going to go into work for the government still. So when I got out, I still wanted to work for the government so I can get my retirement years. So, and I got out and I got into the post office. I wanted to work for the post office, postal service. And I did that for a while, and it was, I guess coming from the military, coming from the Marine Corps, always being in the type of clearance, I wanted to do something more, it was kind of like laid back for me, so I said, well, you know what, let me try something else. And then that's when I went into the car business. I did that for a while, and for actually 14 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did that for 14
Where?
years. All over. The last one I did was Bremen Honda.
Okay.
Bremen BMW, Bremen those type vehicles, yes.
Did you use your GI Bill for anything?
No, actually, my GI Bill is still waiting on me because I was able to do the things I did in life without them. But I am planning on using my GI Bill for the next home I get in the next year or so.
Okay, I got a couple more questions for you. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Well, when I first went into the military, the Vietnam War had just pretty much ended, so, and my mother was concerned about, you're going into to the military, and it's maybe a wartime, and you know, all your parents are always be concerned when you're going into a war, possibly going into a war. And at that time, that wasn't really on my mind about whether it's going to be a war, because I know my brother had just gotten back from the Vietnam a little bit before I went in, and I didn't think about war. All I thought about was, I like the Marine Corps. I like what they're showing on television. I was excited to do it, and they said, well, you get a free education, you go to college. So those are things that was on my mind. No, it didn't give me any negative feelings about going into the military. I went and signed up for the military. I wasn't drafted. So I can remember going down in West Palm. The recruiting station was in West Palm at the time, and walking into the Marine Corps. Our recruiting officer said, I want to enlist. And he said, well, okay, well, what you have to do, wait till you turn 18, because I was still 17 when I went into the recruiting station. I was 17 years old, still in school, because I graduated at 17. So I had to wait till I turned 18 to go into the military. And he said, well, okay, you pass this test, you take the written test, see what your score is, and that'll determine what kind of MOS, which means employment or job you're doing in the military.
Right.
So, and that's how I was able to score high and get to what I want to be.
Okay, last question. How did your service and experiences affect your life?
Well, I think it made me more disciplined. You know, I was never a problem kid from the beginning. You know, I came up in a good household. My mom was a single parent mom, although my father was here in the area. We just didn't live with them. But we came up in a disciplined family, and so I was never ever in trouble. But I think when you got into the military, it made you see a lot of things that that you couldn't do, that you didn't desire to do after a while. You know, you weren't even thinking about getting in any kind of trouble. You weren't even thinking about, it just give you a time, well, you know, at 6 o'clock in the morning, at 5:30 in the morning, you got to be up, ready to go. And it made you disciplined in the time you get there, the time you get off, and what you had to do. So when you got out of the military, you still disciplined. You still, you know, I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I got to do what I got to do and be ready to be on the work, be at work 15, 20 minutes before it starts. So I think military, if anything that I would tell you, it helps you with your character, because you learn to be a different person. You learn to respect people. I don't see anything negative when it comes to the military as far as my experience. But I think if every person deserves to have a chance to go to college if they desire to do that. And one way to do that, if you're not able to afford it, is through the military. And military can give you that opportunity to not just do what you want to do in the military, but get the kind of education that you want to do when you get out of the military. You can have that opportunity.
Great. Is there anything else that you feel like you'd like to share with us?
Well, just the thing about is to say that
About the military.
To say is, don't do it for other reasons. Don't do it because you feel that someone is pressuring you to go into the military. You know, at one time in the military, they offered people, troubled kids, troubled people that got into trouble, say, well, I'll give you an opportunity to either you go to jail or you get a chance to go to the military. And a lot of people had the stigma of military. Well, I'm not going to go to the military because it's going to be a war. We're going to fight. I'm going to die. No. Military is something good for, I would say, just about anybody who has a heart that wants to be in that type of setting, to be able to achieve some things in life that you wouldn't do. Because like my experience, I knew I was going to be the kind of person that's going to just hang out on the street if I didn't go to the military. If I didn't go to the military, I was going to remember, I said I was here at trade school. I took up carpentry. So my other thing was I always could fall back to being a carpenter because my trade was a carpenter. So I had things that I was going to fall back on when I got out of high school. I didn't just get out of high school and just then decide, you know, I'm just going to hang out with my friends and then decide what I'm going to do. No, have your path set. Know what you want to do. If it's not college, it's not trade school, please let it be military.
All right, well, I want to thank you for your service, and I also want to thank you for a wonderful interview.
Thank you.